MVP. Get your shock face ready for that one. This is the first stop on the road to Tampa. This is NFL Total Access. The single digits, 9 days until Super Bowl 55. Welcome into NFL Total Access. My name is MJ Acosta-Ruiz. The angles are endless here. We'll prove it too, as Sean O'Hara and Cynthia Freeland join me tonight. We're full steam ahead on this train to Tampa, but hey, we have a few stops to make as the Houston Texans introduce their new head coach today. David Culley is filling the final head coaching spot across the league. Culley and the Texans have agreed to terms on a 5-year deal. He joins the Texans after serving as the Baltimore Ravens assistant head coach. Culley is well aware of the work that needs to be done and the chatter around his quarterback.
Deshaun Watson's a Houston Texan. He's a quarterback of the Houston Texans. And that's all that I was concerned about. And that's all I knew. And whatever was been said about what he wanted to do or he didn't want to do, all I know is this. Having been in this business this long, he is a Houston Texan. And I want him to be a Houston Texan. And the reason I'm in this position today is because I knew he's going to be a Houston Texan.
All right, very firm statements there. We're bringing you every angle of this story, of course, with our insider, Tom Pelissero, and our analysts today, Sean O'Hara and Cynthia Freeland. Tom, I want to start with you here because the saga continues. But what happens now? Where do the Texans go from here?
Well, MJ, what you heard from the Texans' new brain trust today is really the same thing we've been hearing behind the scenes for weeks. The Texans have no plans to trade Deshaun Watson. They do not want to trade Deshaun Watson, and they've really been putting together this new coaching staff with an eye toward Watson being their quarterback in 2021 and beyond. They retained the offensive coordinator, Tim Kelly, who Watson likes a lot. They recruited quarterbacks coach Pep Hamilton, who's done really good work with other young quarterbacks. And they hired a head coach in David Culley, who you just saw it there in that press conference. He is going to be very positive. He's high energy, really the polar opposite from what they had with Bill O'Brien. Now, Deshaun Watson has made clear through his tweets and otherwise that he wants out. He doesn't want to return to Houston. Well, what he can do right now, because he's under contract through 2025, is continue to tweet, continue to make clear, hey, I'm not showing up. For the Texans, well, they really don't have to do anything. They can afford to wait here, try to repair things, and then if they get into a spot down the line where Watson doesn't show up for a mini camp or for training camp, then they can begin to fine him and eventually go after over $20 million in bonus money. I can tell you, Culley has reached out to Watson. There's obviously a lot of work that would go into potentially repairing that relationship. Meanwhile, other teams have called the Texans. So far, I've been told they're not getting calls back.
All right, listen, that's a lot of layers, a lot of different angles, too. And to Tom's point, Cynthia, you've actually done a deep dive here on the salary and on really what is the caps around the league for Deshaun Watson. So what are the potential good partners here for Deshaun?
Well, let's be honest. No one wants to get rid of Deshaun Watson. I understand Coach Culley completely because this guy is super valuable. When you look at quarterback win share, so how many wins a quarterback adds, Deshaun Watson projects to add 5.2 wins to the Washington football team. That's a huge number. If you look at the top 5 quarterbacks over the last 5 seasons, the average for them is about 4.8 wins added. Just so you know, Patrick Mahomes 2 seasons ago, that was 5.5. That's the highest I've ever seen. So that gives you a little bit of the range. So if you look to see Washington with this defense, why? Because he doesn't really need a great O-line. He doesn't need like what they have for the Colts. The Colts have an awesome O-line. But if you look to see defense plus Deshaun Watson, huge uptick in value. Another place that could also be great, Carolina. This is because of the skill players there. He adds 5.1 there. And then another place, Miami. 5 wins added to Miami, primarily because of their corners.
I'm sorry, what? Okay, look, Cynthia has this whole algorithm, this whole formula, cap plus production plus the numbers. I'll leave that to you. But Sean O'Hara, jump in here for a moment because you have a very keen perspective here. Offensive lineman, also known as a quarterback's best friend. So how does David Culley now, who's inherited this situation, really handle it with Deshaun Watson and his new QB?
Yeah, I mean, but look, MJ, before we move Deshaun Watson's talents to South Beach, I think everybody's got to pump the brakes here. And if I'm in that locker room, if I'm J.J. Watt or Whitney Merciless or, Zach Cunningham, I'm saying, look, Deshaun Watson is our best player. You're going to let him walk out the door? No, absolutely not. That can't happen. And I think that's got to be mission number one for David Culley, because any new coach will tell you they have to earn the trust of the locker room. In order for players to follow you and to listen to you and to be motivated by you, they have to trust you. And I think this is a big first challenge. Congratulations, David Culley. You got the head coaching job. Now you've got to put out a fire that has gone from a slow ember to a straight-up bonfire right now. And no doubt, Houston, we have a problem. But I think for Deshaun Watson, he has meant so much to the city of Houston. He's meant so much to that team. I think that, throughout some time and, maybe things calm down a little bit, maybe he can have some conversation with David Culley before he tries to throw any gasoline on this. Because, look, when it comes to a trade, it's not about, hey, do I want a beach house? Yeah, it's about how much is that going to cost. And Deshaun Watson is prime real estate right now. The Houston Texans, they can't give him away for nothing.
All right, I'm going to add one more wrinkle here, guys, because last night I was hosting the NFL Pro Bowl versus battle with DeAndre Hopkins and Jalen Ramsey. And as we're looking at D-Hop's old Texans highlights, he set one up by saying, oh, my boy, former Texan Deshaun Watson. It was off the cuff, of course, in the moment. Caught us all a little off guard there. He didn't really expand on it, but still an interesting thing for him to sort of say in passing. We kept it moving, though, but another wrinkle there from a guy who knows Deshaun Watson pretty well. All right, guys, speaking of versus, tonight is the final NFL Pro Bowl versus battle with, yes, the man himself. Deshaun Watson will go head-to-head in a highlights battle with Michael Vick. I'll be hosting the battle tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern on NFL Twitter and the Versus Instagram page. Meantime, the Eagles introduced their new head coach today as well. Nick Sirianni was introduced as the new head coach in Philadelphia and almost immediately was met with questions about their quarterback position. No hard and fast answers there from Sirianni, who says he's going to look at every factor.
What we need to do is evaluate the entire roster. We have a lot of things to go through with these next couple weeks of evaluating the entire roster and every position. Quarterback, wide receiver, defensive back. That is what we're going to be diving into here. And it's great. I mean, we have two quarterbacks in Carson Wentz and Jalen Hurts that are top-notch. That are top-notch quarterbacks. And a lot of teams don't have any. And so just really excited to work with both of them.
All right, let's take a look at some other layers here with Sean and Cynthia. And Cynthia, you've looked at all the analytics of how Sirianni could really handle this quarterback situation. So what's your assessment about how this could all play out in Philly?
Well, I think it's interesting that you have two quarterbacks and you're not saying what you want yet. That's good. We've seen other teams give away their leverage position or other players give away their leverage position. So this is a positive note for them from that regard. However, when you look to see hiring Brian Johnson, who has really direct ties to Jalen Hurts, that could kind of give away an opportunity to kind of show your hand a little bit. So when you look to see where Jalen Hurts has a lot of productive value, he's a different type of quarterback than Carson Wentz. So it's kind of which strategy could prevail. You don't really have a congruent strategy between the two of them. So I think we'll see this play out. I don't think both end up on the roster starting week 1 of next season. But I do think in terms of leverage, not giving away your game plan is going to be a positive thing for them.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And Cynthia, I was waiting for your spreadsheet on where the Eagles are from a cap situation, because that's going to be a huge factor in this. We're going to need some algebra here to figure out how they get under the cap, given all of these high-priced players they have. So, look, Coach Sirianni, look, it's like the Siri app on your phone, right? He's going to be asked all kinds of questions. His first question is going to be, hey, Siri, who's my offensive line? Because forget about the quarterbacks. It's great that we have two. We don't want to have to go through both of them by week 3 because we have nobody to block. So the offensive line was an issue last year, and I think that led to a lot of the issues with Carson Wentz. So if they could fix things up front, give themselves a better identity offensively, protect the quarterback a little bit better, run the football a little bit better, I think they'll have a better option at quarterback. But no doubt about it, if you're a head coach right now, I mean, look, we just talked about David Culley down in Houston. He might not even have a quarterback, and now we've got Nick Sirianni, who has 2 quarterbacks. That's quite a luxury.
Yeah, we have the master of analytics and the master of wordplay and analogies with us tonight, so this is going to get very interesting. Cynthia and Sean, thank you. And we go from QB question to one who continues to erase doubt. Tom Brady, a few days away from his 10th Super Bowl appearance in what's now his home stadium in Tampa Bay. No one discounts Brady, least of all the guys game planning for him.
It's all about us just, going back over the details, going back over the little things, understanding that, we're playing against Tom Brady and it's going to take 4 quarters to kind of put this guy away. And doesn't matter how many points we're up by or what the situation is going into the second half. We got to find a way to kind of close the door on Tom because he's always shown, the ability to put his team, back in the game.
No question. And Sean and Cynthia, I feel like I say Tom Brady's name more than I do my own these days. I'm sure the Chiefs players can say the same thing right about now. But Sean, when we look at the other side here, KC now has this task of filling a vital spot on the offensive line. Put us in that O-line room. Will the Chiefs be able to fill that void left by Eric Fisher?
Yeah, MJ, this is a huge void. Eric Fisher tearing his Achilles, right before the biggest game of the year. That's not ideal. So no doubt they're going to have to find a way to create some chips, help him out. You don't want to get him one-on-one on 3rd and long situations. So, JPP, look, he took advantage of the Green Bay Packers backup left tackle, Billy Turner, last week, got 2 sacks against him. And this is what Mike Remmers is going to have to face in filling in. This is just a little Euro step right here, a little outside hand chop, beats Billy Turner right here. Look at that outside hand right there. And once he gets that shoulder, JPP can run the circle. So now he sets him up. All right, he beat him to the outside. Now he gets Billy Turner to open up, and I would just prise him open like a beer can on his way to the quarterback. Watch that inside hand right there. He grabs his wrist. Great hand control. JPP is a handful. So this is what Mike Remmers is going to be faced with now, and you don't want to see JPP dropping the sledgehammer in your backfield on your quarterback.
All right, Cynthia, I want you to bring it back to Tom here. How did the Buccaneers keep Tom Brady in a favorable passing situation, of course, clean and protected?
Yeah, so if you look at the strategy that Steve Spagnuolo has implemented this season, you'll see that they didn't bring a lot of pressure. Meaning, if you look to see the pressure rate, they actually ranked in the bottom 10 in the NFL in terms of 23.3. That's the next-gen stat. That's how often they brought pressure. It's actually even lower since the playoffs, only 22.2. The interesting thing here is they dropped back in coverage, and they were really good at defending 10-plus air yard passes. So if you look to see how Tristan Wirfs and this O-line is going to navigate this, it's going to be to leverage the run game. Ronald Jones has been a surprise. Of course, Leonard Fournette, especially in the playoffs. But if you look at Ronald Jones, Rojo had 219 rushing yards over expected. So this is kind of a metric that says, okay, we thought he was going to get this many given the down distance and situation, but he exceeded that at the 5th best rate in the NFL. So that's a really nice uptick that keeps Tom Brady from having to pass on every down.
All right, well, we've been talking all week about the insanity of Tom Brady's reign, right, Cynthia? But let me just paint a broader picture. I want you both to take a look at this, everyone at home as well. So Tom Brady's probability of making a Super Bowl as a starter is 50%, which means him being the marquee guy here in another championship is more likely than any team in the NFL to convert a 3rd down in 2020. The Bills had the highest this season, and they were at 49.7%. Another thing he's more likely than doing, Michael Jordan or Steph Curry to make a shot, Babe Ruth to get on base, or Sidney Crosby to score a goal in an NHL game. Are you kidding me? I mean, when you look across the sports landscape here, guys, he's on another tier. This is ridiculous.
Also proves that football quarterback's the most valuable in any sport. So when you look to see the Tom Brady, look, that 50%, that's a very fun rate. And that Michael Jordan number and the Steph Curry, I kind of trying to figure out which one's better, because Steph does take the long-range jumper, like Tom Brady with the deep pass.
Yeah, and I'll just say, look, for Tom Brady to have that 50% ratio when you're relying on 10 other guys on the field to do their jobs every single time, and then 11 guys defensively to do their job, that's pretty remarkable.
But you know what it also gives? It gives plenty of inspiration to the players trying to come into the league and be as great as Tom is. And of course, we're talking about Reese's Senior Bowl, which, by the way, you can catch tomorrow night right here on NFL Network, or tomorrow afternoon, rather, at 2:30 Eastern. It was an unprecedented college football season, and tomorrow's draft prospects get a chance to really shine, like Notre Dame defensive end Dalen Hayes, who impressed this week in Mobile. He even put tackle Spencer Brown on his back at practice. Hayes is ready to make it all count on the next level.
That I'm the most dominant player here in the draft. Like, I want to show guys, I think guys have a lot of questions about my pass rush production. So I'm excited to be able to come down here and show guys what I can do and be able to compete against the best. So, yeah, I really want to show them that I'm a competitor, that I'm the best player in the draft, and that I can be as productive as anyone. So I'm excited.
And as for Daniel Jeremiah's top 50 prospects in the draft, the top 10 feature the following. Clemson QB Trevor Lawrence in the top spot. BYU quarterback Caleb Farley rounds out the top 5, and Heisman Trophy winner and Alabama wide receiver Devontae Smith as the 7th top prospect. For more on DJ's prospect analysis, you can head over to NFL.com. On NFL Total Access, the top 5 for 55, as in the top 5 pass catchers for Super Bowl 55. Throw out the speed, throw out the stats, throw out the rep. This isn't about what they did to get to Tampa. This is about what they're going to do in Tampa. No one is more interested in what Steve